Hey there, everyone. We are going to do some prep on voter identification. What this means is that if you find yourself in a debate and the topic is that voter identification should be a requirement to vote, then this is a good video to watch. It's going to be giving you some good feedback. Okay, we are also going to be using ChatGPT in order to help us brainstorm some things. So that's why I have it. Um, that's why I have it open right now. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at what it says. Imagine you are the affirmative in a debate with the topic that identification should be a requirement to vote. Right? A first affirmative constructive one I see. Start with definitions. Start with the type of topic as a question of policy. Explain. Define terms in the resolution. Propose a specific policy. Explain that the criterion will be net benefits. Then have two advantages organized around the stock issues of harms, inherency, solvency, and impacts. I'm going to put internally organized with the stock issues of harms and inherency. See that? All right, nice specific thing. Please, you know what? I'm going to make sure that that's saved here, and now we're going to submit that. Okay. So take a look. First, let's clarify the type of topic. The type of topic is a policy debate. Now, the policy debate, I think, is one thing that is important for you to, in order for you to have clarified at the very beginning. Okay, so the protecting voter rights, cool. We have electoral integrity. The electoral process is fraud and abuse. Non-citizens could potentially cast ballots. Now, here's the problem with this: could potentially cast ballots. If you're only talking about potential harms, that kind of weakens your argument. We've had hundreds of years of elections right now. There should be some sort of evidence, right? And so make sure that you realize that is a weakness. You might want to have some sort of evidence that you're supplying for that one. Now, there's a problem with this because I've debated this before, and so let's say you start looking up election fraud, right? You want to start looking it up, and you go to Google, and you're like, oh, here's the Heritage Foundation and has election fraud database, okay? And so you have a sampling of recent election fraud case from around the United States. And so you're like, oh, there's over 1,000 cases of proven instances of voter fraud. All right. And so remember that. And so you're like, okay, you could use that, but make sure you know what you're citing on this one. If you go to the database right here, what you're seeing is that it has that running count, right? And you're like, okay, Let's take a look at how many years they've been collecting the, like, for instance, look at proven cases of voter fraud in 2023, 4 cases. Proven cases of voter fraud in 2022. Looks like there's at least 6, right? Um, looks like at least 16, 26. Yeah. So what I'm saying is you look at this, that's 114 cases. And when they started collecting this information, it was 1979. So it's 1,400 cases in over 40 years. All right. If you do the math on that, that means it's like maybe we have like 30 cases of voter fraud every year. And so you like just realize that's the number you're talking about. Okay. Like when you're talking about actual voter fraud, the number, like you have to realize the number is pretty darn small. So it becomes a weakness. And so when you're talking electoral integrity, I would suggest focusing not necessarily on the cases of voter fraud that you're solving for, but for the attitude that people have about the integrity, right? And so just make sure that you realize that's a weakness. So many states do not require identification to vote. I would go and look, find which states are those. You can ask which states don't require ID, right? Solvency, require identification to ensure that only eligible citizens are able to cast a ballot. More difficult for individuals to impersonate someone else in order to vote. Okay, that's another thing to realize, that when you're talking about solvency, let's take a look at the voter fraud, duplicate voting, maybe fraudulent use of absentee ballots. Notice how just the one example that I chose from 2022, voter ID would not solve that one. So not only do you have a very small number of harms, but you don't even solve 100% of that. So now you're talking about even less solvency. So that's why, like, if you start talking about numbers of actual fraud that this is going to prevent, you're walking into a weakness. All right, I would say that this is more about attitude that people have. So instead of like voter fraud, I'd be talking about voter confidence. See that? Voter confidence means that you uh, is something that you can measure. But Americans' confidence in the election has faded. So it's not that we're actually solving for fraud. What you can do is you can help solve for confidence in elections. Our elections have proven to be pretty darn secure, but a lot of information has made people think otherwise. And so now the voter ID would kind of help make people would alleviate that sort of misinformation that's happening. Okay. um so, and then protecting voter rights could potentially disenfranchise. So this one's talking about how. So I'm trying to read what it said about voter rights. The required identification could potentially disenfranchise some voters, particularly those without access to identification or who face other barriers to obtaining it. This could have a disproportionate impact on low income and minority communities. That does not sound like something that belongs in the affirmative speech, right? That your ID is going to make it so that some people get disenfranchised. So I'm trying to find out why it's listing this as an affirmative. Um, Many states currently have strict voter ID requirements, making it difficult for some to vote. We believe that the benefits of requiring identification to ensure the integrity of the electoral process outweigh the potential negative impacts on certain groups of voters. However, we also believe it's important to ensure that all citizens have access to identification. Therefore, we propose that the government should provide free identification to any citizen who needs to vote. Now, take a look at that. This is something that you can actually put into your thesis. Take a look at the top here. Okay, next we'll define the terms Our proposed policy, all voters must provide valid government issued identification before casting their vote. The identification card must include the voter's name, photograph, and other relevant information. What you need to do is you need to explain that the government will provide this for free to anyone who is a legally registered voter. So now take a look at the very, very beginning. You're like, okay, thank you for the opportunity to talk. Identification should be required to vote. As the affirmative, our position is going to be uh, that identification should be required. Here's my definitions. Here's the policy and criterion. And then you get into advantages. And note that the advantages follow a harms, inherency, solvency, impact. And then advantage two follows the same harms, inherency, solvency, impact. But in this solvency, it says that uh, you're proposing that the government should provide free identification. That needs to be in your plan up top. Okay. You need to make that a part of your advocacy. Otherwise, it's like some brand new thing. So, up here, when you like copy and paste this and you start editing it and you start making it your own, that's a weakness. Okay. So, what I'm pointing out is that ChatGPT really, really helps to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but it is not enough. Okay. It is, you like you need to make sure that you know from top to bottom what's happening because ChatGPT is hanging you out to dry by springing this on you like more than halfway through your speech. Okay, that should be part of your thesis that needs to be clarified. Also, notice there are no source citations throughout this entire thing. Okay, and so you need to do your due diligence and do the research. So I would, so not, so I'm not taking this. I would change the electoral integrity. So let's do that. Like rewrite the 1AC. Change what was it called? Um, electoral integrity to voter confidence. Um, oh, hold on. Add that a voter will be made available for free to any and all legally registered voters. Add to the plan that a voter ID and voters. Change electoral integrity to voter confidence. All right. All right, and then rewrite it that way. See, let's take a look at what it said. Like which states don't require ID. Remember that a ChatGPT only goes to 2021, so voter ID requirements vary by state. Currently, I do not have access to updated. However, it's important that these laws. Okay, so you're gonna have to find that elsewhere, or you have to rephrase the question a little bit better. Let's take a look here. So I said, all right, add something to the plan. We propose that all legally registered must provide valid government. No, it screwed this up. We propose that all legally registered voters must provide a valid government issued identification card free of charge before casting their vote in any election. That's not what it is. It's like you want the government to provide it free of charge before they vote. All right. So make sure that you are reading this closely. That plan is still bad. All right. Increase voter confidence. There you go. Without identification requirements, the electoral process is vulnerable from fraud and abuse, which undermines the confidence and fairness of elections. See, it kind of modified it. I'd modify it even more. Currently, do not require even the states that do that. Okay, require would help ensure that only eligible citizens are able to cast a ballot. It would make it more difficult. I would talk more about how the appearance is what matters. All right, it's like it's not that you're ensuring that only eligible citizens are able to cast a ballot. Right now, the system is pretty good at doing that. We're making it. Um, uh, it is a very noticeable change in the electoral process that people will recognize, and therefore believe in it more. All right. Uh, Yeah, I would rewrite that again. So as you can see, this is what I'm recommending as your organization. Okay, you have an introduction that includes definitions, a very specific plan or proposal, and then a criterion. I want to just touch upon criteria. It will be net benefits. We believe the benefits of requiring identification will outweigh any potential negative impacts. Pardon me. That's a nice little synopsis. You can rewrite it however you want. You can have ask ChatGPT to rewrite it. But what I want you to notice is that you can get going really quickly with ChatGPT. You can really get the ball rolling. All right. And now all you have to do is go and look up your own sources. And you can say, okay, according to CNN on July 1st, 2022, Americans' confidence in elections has gone down significantly, right? You could even say that you could find the statistics. Only like in January 2021, 59% said that they had confidence. Now only 42% have confidence. And so notice how that you need to now work that into not all the way up there into advantage one. All right, that the confidence is eroding from our election process. We need to do something to boost that confidence. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe the outcomes. It doesn't matter how secure our system actually is. What matters is the perception of security. And then you say, currently no identification laws are required to vote, and therefore the perception of security is leading to this lack of confidence. And then requiring identification would help the perception of security, and it would increase confidence. See that? So you kind of get around that whole problem of the actual fraud numbers not really providing the support that you need to make these claims. See that? Okay. So um, so in the first, like this first section right here, and don't start with thank you for the opportunity to present the affirmative. Like start with something a little bit better than that. But up to here, like make sure that you have a policy that you like. Um, uh, and then define identification as a government issue. We propose that all legally registered voters, okay, and a criterion. All right, so you have definitions, a specific policy, and a criterion. Just use net benefits. Feel free to do that. Okay, but I really, really recommend having two advantages, organizing them using the stock issues. Now, the stock issues, you can find more of an explanation about stock issues in our uh, lesson, the stock issues lesson that we provide. But you do that twice. All right. So each one of these takes about 2 minutes to get through. Remember, these do not have the research that you need in order to make these types of claims. ChatGPT is just putting it out there and saying it really confidently, but it's not a finished product, everybody. It just gets you to a point in which now all you have to do is fill in the gaps with actual research, with source citations, and to make sure that there aren't any inconsistencies or surprises or strategic errors that ChatGPT is making. And it makes a lot of them. Okay, so make sure you don't just take what ChatGPT is giving you and start using that in a round. All right, that you need to use that as your new starting point. Rather than starting from a blank page, you get to start with ideas that were automatically generated. Right? All right. So if you have any suggestions, any questions, you could put them in the comments. You can contact me directly. Either way, I would love any sort of follow up, any sort of feedback is welcome. All right. Okay. Um, So I will have another one of these later today on another topic. See ya.